Alright, today we're going to talk about angle relationships. Angle relationships. How angles, two angles, three angles, multiple angles, how they relate to each other. And we're going to start off with what is called adjacent angles. Adjacent angles. If you look to the left and to the right of you, the person sitting next to you is sitting adjacent to you. Person sitting on the other side of you, they are sitting adjacent to you. So adjacent angles, those are next to each other. Alright? Adjacent meaning next to. So let's draw some pictures of adjacent angles. If you've got an angle right here, angle ABC, and then you take your pencil and you go to that vertex B and just draw another ray and put point D on it. Then A, B, C and CBD are adjacent. If we were to call this the black one, this black angle right here is adjacent to this red angle right here. This red angle right here. They're next to each other. They share a vertex and they share a side. See it? Now, if you put your pencil back on B, you draw another ray and you put point E on it. You've created another angle. And we're going to make this one blue. We'll call this the blue angle. Okay? In this case, angles CBD and DBE are adjacent. They are next to each other. Now, for conversation, if we label this first angle, angle ABC, label it angle 1. And then angle CBD, we'll label it angle 2. And then DBE, we'll label it angle 3. 1 and 2 are adjacent. 2 and 3 are adjacent. They're next to each other. They're sharing a side and a vertex. But 1 and 3, those are not adjacent, are they? Okay? They share a vertex, but there's a whole nother angle in between them. So they're not considered adjacent angles. Okay? Clear on adjacent angles? They're next to each other. They share a side. Next to each other and they share a side. Let's talk about a linear pair. A linear pair of angles are adjacent Linear pair. See the first four letters in the word linear? The L-I-N-E? A linear pair form a line. A linear pair of angles form a line. So if you draw a line on your paper and put point B on there, put your pencil on B and go up, you just drew two angles. And let's put a point A right here, a point C up here, and put a point D right here. So we got angle ABC, ABC, and what's the other angle called? CBD. Are a linear pair. They're next to each other, which is adjacent, and they form a line, and the line in this case was line AD. Now, yesterday we said that in a line, the degree measure of that line was 180 degrees. Agreed? So, a linear pair of angles will always sum 180 degrees. Alright, if this angle on the left is 120, then this angle on the right would have to be 60 in a linear pair. A linear pair of angles always sum 180. So let's write that down maybe. That's real important. A linear pair always sum 180. This autocorrect is doing some numbers on my handwriting. So we're gonna take that off. Nope. That's S-U-M. Sum. Added together, right? When you add two things together, you get a sum. So a linear pair will always sum 180 degrees. Draw a letter Y laying on its side. Label these angles 1, 2, and 3. Do 1 and 2 form a linear pair? Two angles, do they form a line? Do they look like these two up here? Do they look like this, or this, or this, or that? See how the stem on this Y is straight? And the stem on this Y is straight? And the stem on this Y stops and breaks two directions, doesn't it? So you don't have any linear pairs here. No two angles together next to each other form a line. Alright? But is angle 1 and angle 2, or angles 1 and 2, are they adjacent? They're next to each other, and they share a vertex, and they share a side. And 2 and 3 are next to each other, they share a vertex, and they share this side. Okay? And 1 and 3, they share a vertex, and they share a side. Alright, they share that side right there. But no none of those as a pair form a straight line. So they're adjacent, but they're not a linear pair. So do y'all see the difference? I'll take that as a yes. Let's go with vertical angles. Vertical angles. Now, vertical angles are non-adjacent. Vertical angles are non-adjacent and formed by two lines. Take this word and. Vertical angles are non-adjacent. Erase the and. Vertical angles are non-adjacent. Put a comma there after non-adjacent. They're formed by two lines. Put a comma. No, you don't need a comma after that. Erase that period right there. Vertical angles are non-adjacent, formed by two lines, and congruent. So they're not next to each other and they're formed by two lines. Not next to each other and formed by two lines. So draw two lines on your paper. And then label these angles. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Vertical. Let's put a word underneath vertical angles or on top of vertical angles or somewhere around there. Vertical angles, we're going to say opposite. That's how I remember them. They're opposite of each other. Vertical angles are opposite of each other. Alright, so a pair of vertical angles in this picture on the left. Opposite angles formed by two lines. Alright, so 1 and 3. Angles 1 and angle 3 are called vertical angles. They're opposite of each other, they're formed by two lines, and they're equal to each other. So you can put this little red arc mark in here. Right there and right there. Anybody see another pair of vertical angles? Good, 2 and 4. 2 and 4. Now here's another notation you haven't seen yet. Put 2 arc marks with angle 2 and 2 arc marks with angle 4. That means that angle 2 is the same measure as angle 4. But they're not the same as angles 3 and angle 1. Let's label or list a linear pair of angles in this picture. Two angles next to each other that form a line. 3 and 4. Y'all see it? See the different pairs of angles that form a line that are next to each other? Angle 3 and angle 4, they form a line. So they're a linear pair. 4 and 1 form a line and they're next to each other. 1 and 2, they form a line and they're next to each other. And 2 and 3, they form a line and they're next to each other. So all of those in this case are a linear pair. Okay? Got it? A lot of information, huh? Good, good, good. All right, look over at the next page. Complementary angles. Complementary angles. Complementary angles are two angles that sum 90 degrees. Complementary angles are two angles that sum 90 degrees. That means their measures add up to 90 degrees. They don't have to be adjacent. In this picture right here, remember yesterday we said that this symbol, the red half of a box, meant 90 degrees. In this picture right here, you got angle 1 and you got angle 2. Angles 1 and 2 are complementary. Okay, they add up to 90 degrees. If you were to see this picture, and this was angle A, and this picture, and this was angle B, and if this angle was 20 degrees, and angle B was 70 degrees, then angle A and angle B are complementary. They sum 90 degrees. They don't have to be touching each other. They don't have to be next to each other. They just have to add up to 90 degrees. Supplementary angles. Sum 180 degrees. Supplementary angles sum 180 degrees. So put a line on your paper, put point M on it, and then take a line going up out of point M. Label those angles 1 and 2. Now this looks just like your picture of a linear pair. And that's because supplementary angles sum 180. And if they're adjacent to each other, then they form a linear pair. Alright? So 1 and 2 are supplementary. They sum 180. Like the complementary angles, they don't have to be touching each other to be supplementary. So if I drew this angle on a piece of paper, called it angle A, and then over here angle B, and if angle A is 150 degrees and I want A and B to be supplementary, what's the measure of angle B gonna be? It's got to be 30, doesn't it? Okay. Alright, so a bunch of definitions and a bunch of examples. Anybody got any questions? Okay, I've got a handout for you today. And your assignment for today is going to be this handout. It is 1-5 skills practice. And on 1-5 skills practice, I want you to do 1 through 8 and then 11 through 13. 1 through 8 and then 11 through 13.